I got into a back and forth with I don't know what else to call him. Let's just say a Steve Eiserman apologist. Okay. Where I wrote down and made what I thought was a very thoughtful comment saying, hey, I really, just be perfectly honest with you, I really don't know why anybody still has hope in Steve Eisman. That's my thought. I've already laid out. I think he should be fired. I'm done with Steve Eisman. I don't think he's going to be able to get us out. He hasn't shown an ability to get us out. I'm done. All right. But I understand. Not everybody's going to be done. I'm not going to yell. I'm not going to scream. I'm not going to make fun of people if they don't want to just cut his head off now. Fine. Understood. My only ask then is this. Why and what is it that you still have hope in? Because going down the list of things that teams are, or rather GMs are evaluated on, it's not great. All right, it's not great. So let's start one object at a time. First, we'll start with free agents and trades. So that's pro acquisitions, pro moves. How is the team as far as pros go? So let's start with the good. All right, Alex DeBrincat, excellent trade. You really didn't give up a whole lot for him. He's been a great player the past couple of years for us, goal scorer, all that. Good player, very good player even. Patrick Kane, he's been solid. This year, he's kind of fallen off from where he was last year, but pretty good player. Helps your offense for sure, especially on the power play. And in overtime and shootout and all that, sure. And then as far as re-signs / signing his own guys, you have Lucas Raymond and Mo Sider and Dylan Larkin. Dylan Larkin obviously wasn't his draft pick, but he re-signs Dylan Larkin. He's a good player. I don't think he's amazing or, a superstar, but he's a good player. And good teams will have a Dylan Larkin on their team. So he's a solid addition. I like Dylan Larkin. I'm not opposed to keeping him around, but it is what it is. He is who he has shown us to be. Okay. Lucas Raymond and Mo Sider is 2 first draft picks. Both very good players. Mo Sider, one of the top defensemen, especially on a defensive side among defensemen. Wish maybe you could get a little bit more from him offensively from a points perspective, but overall, very good player. Lucas Raymond, I think, is a superstar in the making, if not already. He's Lucas Raymond. He's on the Swedish team. He's a very good player. I believe he still leads the Red Wings in points. Very good player. Goal scorer, assist maker. Great player. No qualms about Lucas Raymond. Outside of those 5 guys, everyone else has basically sucked. Like every other move has basically sucked as far as free agents and trade acquisitions. Peter Mrazek obviously just got hurt, so not looking great for that trade. But regardless of whether he got hurt, Peter Mrazek is awful. Peter Mrazek is terrible. Don't let the broadcast tell you otherwise. He's terrible. He's way past his prime. He had a prime back in the early 2010s, but he's terrible. Every other guy that he's signed, whether it's re-sign or whatever, has been terrible. All right? JT Compher, a guy that I liked last year, he's been terrible this year. Andrew Copp, way too much money for a guy that's coming off of like your third line, I think. I don't even know. Like he certainly way more money than he deserves. I'm blanking on his name. Justin Hall, Jeff Petrie, 2 of the worst defensemen in the NHL. Both Steve Yzerman additions, both to way too much money, which is any amount of money, basically. And that's not even including things like the Jake Wallman trade, where we attach a second-round pick to a guy who is now on a Stanley Cup caliber team in Edmonton and won San Jose a couple extra picks. Like, that one still doesn't make any sense, as well as a guy like Shane Gostisbehere, who's currently on a Carolina Hurricanes team, which is also a very good hockey team. And you even have David Perron, who is out in Ottawa, who is also a playoff team. So the guys that you let go off to teams that end up being better. And the guys that you bring in do not make your team better. So that's concerning. All right. Now you move on to coaching and administration, which is to say front office, scouting, all that stuff. if you just go online to the front office for the Detroit Red Wings, let me tell you something. It's really interesting how many of the people that have been hired in happen to be former teammates of Steve Eisman. Isn't that just crazy? Isn't that just so weird? Isn't it weird? Let me just look it up. Let me look it up. Let me look it up right now for you. Here we are. So isn't it just weird that Nick Lindstrom is the VP of hockey operations, former Red Wing teammate of Steve Eisman, and Chris Draper, assistant to the general manager and director of amateur scouting, also former teammate of Steve Eisman. Nicholas Cronwell, European player development, also very briefly teammate of Steve Yzerman. Dan Cleary, assistant director of player development, also a former teammate of Steve Yzerman. Isn't that just a little strange? Regardless of whether you think these people are qualified, it is a little weird, right? Like, isn't it? It's never a good sign when your leaders are seemingly giving passes to their friends, giving roles to their friends, regardless of, here's my thing. I would rather not know who any of these people are. Like, I would rather it be Steve Yzerman and Bob Magoo and Steve Spadoo and Andrew Bigelidoo. That's who I would rather. Completely nameless, faceless people who I have no idea who they are. Okay? Like, that would be ideal. But, it is what it is. And also, interesting to note, Chris Yzerman is one of your pro scouts. So, in case you are a little silly and don't realize, they have the same last name because they are brothers. So, one of your pro scouts is Steve Yzerman's brother. So, interesting stuff. I know this happens everywhere, all across all sports, across all teams, good and bad. I understand. But when you're bad, it especially becomes evident. Especially when we're talking about pro scouting, which we just talked about, how largely it's been terrible, and one of your pro scouts is your brother. Not great, Bob. Not great. And then as far as coaching goes, well, let's do a little bit of a rewind, shall we? Steve Yzerman comes in. Jeff Blashill is the coach. He keeps Blashill for a couple of years, then realizes, oh, yeah, that's right. Jeff Blashill sucks, and nobody else would want him as a head coach. So he cuts ties with Jeff Blashill. And he brings in his guy, Derek Lalonde, who, interestingly enough, was from Tampa Bay. Now, where did Steve Yzerman come from again? It wasn't Ottawa. I'll give you a hint. It's in Florida, and it's not the Panthers. That's right, Tampa Bay. So he brings in one of his friends, basically, and he puts him as the head coach. And fast forward, he fires him because he was terrible. You have multiple collapses in the month of December, as well, obviously more of note in the month of March. Eventually, you fire him in season, and you bring in Todd McClellan, who was an assistant coach for the Red Wings back in the early 2000s. I believe he was an assistant coach to Mike Babcock in 2008. And I don't know if Steve Yzerman had left the Red Wings from at that point to go to Tampa Bay. I'm pretty sure he was still with the Red Wings. So, again, he already had a relationship with McClellan. So, it's getting to the point where you're like, okay, he's bringing in guys that he likes, which is fine. I want him to bring in guys that he likes. But he's bringing in guys that he already had a relationship with, guys that are his friends, to get them jobs. And so far, the results on the ice have been bad. So whether or not these people are qualified, it's certainly not showing it. And so the big thing that people are really hanging their heads on is the drafting. The draft. No, Mike, look, you don't know hockey. You don't understand. He's drafted the best players ever. All of his prospects are going to be superstars. They're going to be amazing. Just you wait until Simon Edvinsson and Marco Kasper and Albert Johansson. Just you wait until they're all on the... That's right. They're already on the team. Now, that's not to say that Axel Sandin Pellikka and Nate Danielson and Carter Mazur, who also made his debut this year and then got hurt, it's not to say that any of those guys are going to be bad. I don't know if they're going to be bad. I don't know if they're going to be good. They're lottery tickets, essentially. They're get-out-of-jail-free cards. If you are in a bad spot because your roster's not working out, veterans are getting hurt, or they're not playing to the level that they're supposed to, then maybe some of your prospects work out and the team overperforms. The problem is you can't just assume they're going to perform. This is the problem, because you get high on your own supply to the point where your asset management, where your use of those prospects in trades to get known commodities do not happen. Steve Yzerman has never actually made a trade where he had to give up a high-level prospect to bring in somebody right now that is good. And a lot of times that is the kind of move that you need to make to get over the hump. All right? Like, again, as much as Axel Sandin Pellikka might be, Wayne Gretzky meets Nick Lindstrom, okay, he's not that right now. All right? You want to know how I know he's not that right now? Because he's currently playing in Sweden. If he was so good, if he was out of this world good, he'd be on the roster. But he's not right now. So that means either he's not good yet, like he's not ready for it yet, or GM Steve Yzerman is so stupid that he doesn't realize that this player is so good he could be in the NHL right now and be Nick Lindstrom meets Wayne Gretzky, and he's just not bringing him in. So either way, you're kind of in a spot where things don't look great. Now, let's say you're totally on board. All right, you know what? It doesn't matter. Axel Sandin Pellikka is going to be the greatest player ever, and Nate Danielson is Steve Yzerman 2.0. Okay, fine. Let me just run by some stats for you. Some money puck stats. So I don't know. Some of these might have been updated, but as of when I looked this up yesterday, in 2019-2020, which was the first year of Steve Yzerman's team, right? So he gets hired in 2019, I believe, and then 2019-2020, that's the first season. I think. I could be wrong on that. Either way, that's around when he took over. I don't know. Yeah, because he got hired, I believe, in April of 2019. Yeah, I think that's right. So that team was in these advanced stats on 5-on-5, according to Money Puck. They were 30th in expected goal percentage, 31st in shot attempt percentage, 30th in expected goal differential, and 31st in actual goal differential. Not great. Not a great team to take over. Very bad team, one might even say. Now, 6 years later, mind you, not 1 year, not 2 years, not 3, not 4, not even 5. 6 years from that, here's where the team stands in those exact same stats. 26th in expected goal percentage, 27th in shot attempts percentage, 26th in expected goal differential, 27th in actual goal differential. So basically, you managed to go from bottom of the league to bottom third of the league in 6 years. 6 years. 6 off seasons. To put it into perspective, in that span, every other team, including college teams, in college basketball and college football, in the state of Michigan, of the major teams, I should say. I'm qualifying this a lot for the college teams. Every single one of them has made the playoffs or will make the playoffs in the case of the Pistons. Think about that. Hi, it's me again. If you enjoyed what you just saw, hit the like and subscribe button. We do live shows every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Hope to see you there.